big time middleweight co-main event. This is not like Zach Paunga taking on Jordan Ray. This is a big time fight in this division that holds rankings in regards. We have the ranked fighter, Andre Muniz. He's looking to put that squeaky clean UFC record up against the former LFA middleweight champ. He shares our last name. He watches the videos, and if we don't pick him, he doesn't like it all that much. We have all in Brendan Ailin representing Killcliff FC, a guy who's really put it together in his last 3 fights, picking up big wins over Sam Alvey by finish, Jacob Malkoun by decision, and Krzysztof Jotko saying, hey, enjoy the PFL, Krzysztof, picking up a big-time first-round finish win in that matchup where, if you remember, it was Ailin, Jotko jockeying for position. Jotko gets the takedown, and then out of it, Ailin's able to reverse and sink in a great choke to get that first-round submission win. So for Ailin, really where he's been all in is throughout his career, he switched through gyms. He was a Rufus Sport guy. He's originally out of Louisiana, but he spent a lot of camps at what was it called? Hard Knocks 365, then Sanford MMA, now Killcliff FC. And for Ailin, his striking's definitely taken a leap up. And even if you look at the last 2 losses, one to Chris Curtis where he gets kind of hit and then kneed, the fight that he had against Sean Strickland, he struggled against those guys. But you look at the wins that Brendan Ailin's been able to get, and it's really been mixing his martial arts in a lot of these fights to get the wins. Whereas for Andre Muniz, he did the unthinkable. I mean, he broke Jacare Souza's arm, which was crazy at the time to think of. Jacare, not a guy getting submitted very often. Maybe getting knocked out, but not submitted. Wins over Ahoyo. Bartosz Fabinski, that was a performance of the night bonus. He beats Eric Anders by finish, and he gets the win over Uriah Hall. And even in the fight against Eric Anders, Anders had some successes in that matchup that maybe Brendan Allen's able to draw off of. But if you look at Muniz's last fight up against Uriah Hall, a little bit of a stinker. Held position in a lot of that.
It wasn't a good one.
Wasn't necessarily the most fun fight that we've ever seen, but a good opportunity for Muniz to take on a game opponent and a guy like Brendan Ailin.
100%, but I keep on falling back to the feeling that I get that this is somewhat of a setup fight for a guy like Andre Muniz, because Brendan Ailin, and you brought it up, is an extremely well-rounded fighter, but Brendan Ailin, when he initiates a lot of his own grappling, is getting taken down. It's due to a knockdown. It's not necessarily due to his overall dominant wrestling. It's not due to his overall dominant grappling. It's normally because, like you had said, he is able to mix his martial arts. And I will be curious to see if he does have an advantage on the feet, will it be a power advantage on the feet? Because I do think he has a much more varied amount of strikes. He throws that body kick to very high effect. He does have good leg kicks too, and I do think those could be a factor in this matchup because Muniz on the feet is not a high volume guy whatsoever, and that is how a lot of his opponents are going to beat him. If he does start to lose to these upper echelon guys, think of like Robert Whittaker for instance, it's going to be a lot of defended takedowns, a lot of outside striking, and Brendan Ailin can follow somewhat of that blueprint, but the issue I have is, even go back to the Kevin Holland fight, like Kevin Holland is a very talented grappler, but he's not a big guy for this weight class, he's not the strongest guy for this weight class. He hurts Ailin, gets his back, they grapple for a lot, and Ailin does have success grappling against Kevin Lee. The problem is, he's in that position, and that's what I keep on going back to. Even if he has success against other guys in some of these similar positions, I thought it would be a cold day in HELL when Jacare Souza would get submitted in an MMA cage. And I had to eat my words when Andre Muniz is able to prove pretty much everybody wrong and show that he really is that one-of-one type of submission ace. Like, we talk about one hit, one knockout power. Andre Muniz has that capability with a lot of his jiu-jitsu. And I know, like you said, he wasn't necessarily able to demonstrate that against Uriah Hall. That was a weird fight where he never really got secure position on Hall. There was a lot of these, like, I'm kind of moving away from you, you're kind of moving away from me, I'm just trying to hold you down. I don't think we're going to see that position as much. I think Brendan Ailin, although this isn't a great recommendation, he will be more likely to grapple with a guy like Muniz. I don't think he's just going to be on the defense originally, so I do think that will give Muniz the opportunity to progress through his grappling sequences.
Yeah, and I mean, 3 weeks ago, an interview came out with friend of the show, Ryan Gerald. Brendan Ailin says, BJJ will not save Andre Muniz at UFC Vegas 70. And for Ailin, the deep dive that I did getting ready for a matchup like this, Ailin orthodox, Muniz is southpaw. Brendan Allen's fought a F-ton of southpaws in the UFC and around the UFC. He's fought Tom Breeze, Kyle Dawkins, Carl Robertson, Puna Soriano, Sam Alvey, Krzysztof Jotko. He's won all 6 of those fights, so he doesn't struggle against southpaws at all. He's able to figure out the game plan there. And in the fight that he had against Jotko, again, performance bonus, first round
looked
submission
great.
win. He looked really good in that matchup. The striking's continued to progress. He moves his head a little bit more than he has in other fights. He's really rounded things out. For Muniz, it should be said, I mean, listen, the guy's 5-0 in the UFC. He's won, his last 9 fights since 2016. And his last loss was to the professional, changed the nickname, Azamat Murzakanov, a light heavyweight guy to look out for. So, Matt, in a matchup like this, honestly, myself, I do struggle with this prediction because for Muniz in the 5 fights in the UFC, Antonio Hoyo, little one-dimensional, little bit of a striker, and that's it. Bartosz Fabinski, good at judo, good with takedowns, leaves his head out there all the time on his takedown. Jacare, we know how good Jacare is, so you can't discount that at all. Eric Anders was a good back
That was really impressive.
battle. That was really impressive too. And the fight against Shariah Hall was a little bit of a stinker. Muniz is a favorite, about a 2-1 in this one. I do have a hard time with this, so I'm going to topology votes first. I'm going to say over-under. I think the fans will go with Muniz. I'm going to say over under 70% Muniz.
I think they'll be in the 80s for him.
You're going to be in the 80s? They are. So 733 total votes, 84% Muniz, 68% by submission for the 16% that have Ailin, 66% by decision. The Michael Jordan of grappling is what Mike Goldberg would say.
Shouldn't call anybody
Travis
that.
Luter.
This is my big problem, and I kind of mentioned it earlier on in the video. Brendan Allen will play the game of grappling with a guy like Andre Muniz, and I just think that's the worst game plan possible. If he had a little bit more power on the feet, I do think Allen's the better striker. He's the more varied striker, but he's not one of these one-hitter-quitter kind of guys, and I think that would help him a lot against a guy like Muniz, because it makes it so that if you're just perfect for that 1 second, you can get the win, whereas I think Allen to win this fight is probably more likely to win it by decision. It's going to be tough to go out there and knock out a guy like Muniz, because even if you hurt him, he can just go back into his full guard and kind of play that Damian Maia style of a game where, again, fans don't necessarily like it, but when you're as dangerous as Muniz is on the mat, you can get away with doing some techniques like that. So I do have Muniz for what he's able to demonstrate with his grappling up until this point, but again, like you had mentioned, Allen has been able to improve with his striking. He came into the UFC thought of very much as a pure grappler, and now he is a very well-rounded fighter. So I could see Allen getting the win, but I just think Muniz's grappling is a little too dominant.
And you think about it too, like he's got a teammate who's gone through a similar fight, went out there, got the knockout, put his hands up, and then ended up, it was the fight that Gilbert Burns had against Damian Maia. So the Allen way, I'm going to pop a fortune cookie, and we're going to see what the fortune is for Brendan Allen. Matt, it says, il est bon de dire la vérité. It is proper to speak the truth. So we got to speak the truth.
My truth is, I think Muniz going to probably win by submission.
My truth is, I'm going to pick Muniz as well, but Brendan Allen's got an awesome shot as an underdog in this fight. You can't overlook Brendan Allen whatsoever. The advancements that he's made in his game plan to a guy like Muniz. Muniz has been out there, if you go on his Instagram, training his boxing, but also competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments and winning them as well. It's just, how does Muniz get it to the place where he needs to get it? Is it off an Allen takedown? Because I don't know if Muniz is going to be able to take down Allen, and Allen definitely has better striking than Muniz in this matchup. So I'm ever so slightly going with Andre Muniz. You let us know down below in the comments section who you have. Do you like the taste of fortune cookies? I do. A big-time matchup in the main event. Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Spann. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say. Let's get into it.